Good night. It is currently February 22nd, 2021, and here we are back again with another episode of the WPT Lifestyle Show, exclusively presented on Anchor.fm and on YouTube. Once again, I appreciate everyone who has been tuning into these episodes of the WPT Lifestyle Show. The channel has been growing all around. Views have been tremendous. Once again, thank you. We've reached 4,000 views on one of our episodes, which has been outstanding. So, once again, thank you. We are in for a jam-packed morning here. We got some more things going on throughout the state of the world, and specifically, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things today. But this is first, we're going to talk about some breaking news in the NBA world, as Minnesota Timberwolves head coach Ryan Saunders has been released of his duties. He's been fired, terminated, and gone from the Minnesota Timberwolves after a not so great start of the season so far. He started coaching for the Timberwolves in 2018. Not great, not a great year. He only had 42 games under his belt. When he started for the T-Wolves, he went 17-25. Then the next season, last season, 2019-2020 season, once again, not a lot of games played. Finished at 19-45. And this season, he's off to a 7-24 record. Not great at all. But it's tough, man. It's tough for the Timberwolves because think about it. This guy, he was brought in, was trying to basically like a legacy, right? His dad, Flip Saunders, who's a long-time coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and he was brought into that organization to basically, even after Tom Thibodeau was fired, to live up to those same expectations as his dad was, right? And it's tough for him to do so when you have such a young team. You're rebuilding year after year, but your players aren't staying on the court. This guy, he had a very talented roster. Some young guys such as Malik Beasley, the number 1 overall pick this past season, Anthony Edwards, you have Jared Vanderbilt, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, right? Ed Davis, Naz Reeds, Juancho Hernan Gomez, just to name a few. And, it's tough. And especially two young guys such as D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, they've only played 5 games together the whole season. So for him, to go out on a losing note, so far through 31 games this season at 7-24, it's tough, man. A lot of the media, and I saw it on Twitter that they were saying how great and guy he was, how respectful he was, and how respected he was throughout the National Basketball Association. But something like this in the NBA, when you're really competing day after day, you need to win games. In their last 10 games, the Timberwolves have gone 2-8. They're 3-13 on the road, 4-11 at home. In the conference, they're 4-14, and the Western Conference is tough. And we'll dive deep into that in just a few. But for someone like that, it's tough. This guy's only 34, 35 years old. Of course, he's gonna land right back on his feet in no time, right? It might take just a little bit to get back into. Obviously he'll probably go to another assistant coaching job, and then later on as he'll move back up the ranks again. But for me, it's pretty shady, man, how quickly. It's not like the Timberwolves, they hired someone on his staff to be an interim head coach. They hired someone outside of the organization, Chris Finch, who is the associate head coach for the Toronto Raptors, mid-season. For me personally, as long as I've been a basketball fan, I've never seen something like this happen before, right? So how is this going to work? Because here's the thing. You had the opportunity to hire Chris Finch in the offseason, so why not do so then? If you knew that Ryan Saunders wasn't your guy, why not do that then? And, you'll have a smooth transition. Now you're just chalking up the season, right? You're bringing a guy from another organization mid-season and expect him to turn around the organization just like that. It's not going to happen. This guy, Chris Finch, he has to bring in. Obviously, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be able to bring in his own coaching staff. Right, mid-season, that's just not feasibly possible. There's no way that can happen. Right, that's more of an off-season kind of thing. So you have Chris Finch coming into an organization, head coach with assistants that may not work under his regime. And you have to insert a new playbook into the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. So that's going to be really interesting to see what's going to happen there for the Minnesota Timberwolves. For me, I don't see them. I really do see them seeing like as the last place team in the Western Conference, maybe the worst team in basketball, fighting up there with the Detroit Pistons. But we'll see, man. We'll see how it goes. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they'll keep on fighting their young team. But what's going to happen with Cat and D'Angelo Russell at the trade deadline? Are they going to be looking to trade those two pieces away to another team to get something in return? Really, kick this rebuilding process off, or keep them and hopefully at the end of the season look to land some more bigger targets, or pick up another top 3 first-round pick in next year's draft and go from there. You have a stacked draft coming in this next season, and we'll see. If you keep D'Angelo Russell, you have Anthony Edwards, and you have Karl-Anthony Towns, right? You have 3 guys. That's your future if you elect to stay at that point. But then, you can get Cade Cunningham, who's electric. If you land that first pick, that's who I'm going with if you're the T-Wolves, if you get it. But we'll go deeper later down the line, when we officially know the order of the NBA draft, mock drafts, and things like that, which players are opted in and out of their prospective college basketball season. So let's jump into these NBA standings as we did last time to cover the NBA. And as we did last time, we'll go from worst to least, or worst to best. Starting in Eastern Conference, Detroit Pistons sitting at 8-22. Cleveland Cavaliers 10-21. They've made a tremendous drop off there on a 10-game losing streak. Wow. Last 10 games, they've lost them all. That's brutal because they were sitting at 10-11, right? And then all of a sudden, bam. 10 losses in a row. Washington Wizards are finally making a nice comeback. They've won their 4 past games. They're sitting at 10-17 on the year. Orlando Magic 13-18 with 3-game winning streak, 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Atlanta Hawks have also been in a pretty drought here. They're sitting at 13-17 on the season. Their last 10 games, they are 3-7. That is pretty brutal for them because they were off to a very, very hot start. The Miami Heat are finally turning some around the corner. They're picking up 2 games in a row here. They're sitting at also 13-17, 6-4 in their last 10 games. The Chicago Bulls having a tremendous year, way more than I expected personally. 13-16, they're 9th in the East. With a 5-5 in their last 10, 7-7 on the road. Pretty good 500-wise. They won their last game. Charlotte Hornets sitting in the 8th seed. Once again, pretty unexpected for the Hornets. LaMelo Ball is doing phenomenal. I see him as my rookie of the year. They're sitting at 14-15 on the season, 6-4 in their last 10 games. The New York Knicks, pretty surprising here for this team. Julius Randle is making a very, very good run, and a very close call, maybe most improved player of the year this season. We shall see. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games as well. Boston Celtics, they have been on a very, very drought. They're at 15-15, sitting at 500 of the year, 6th place in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games, especially a tough loss last night against the New Orleans Pelicans. The Toronto Raptors, after a very tough and terrible start towards the beginning of the year, they made a tremendous, all the way up the Eastern Conference. They're sitting at 16-15, 7 games won in their last 10, and they've won 4 games in a row. The Indiana Pacers, 15-14. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. It's not good for them. It's not looking good. They're going to need some things to turn because this Eastern Conference from 4 to about honestly 4-12. It's a toss up. I mean, it's 3 games separates the 12th and 4th seed. So things have to turn around. The Eastern Conference, you know how it always is over there. Yeah, you got to see some things turn around. Milwaukee Bucks, they've been without Drew Holiday for a couple of weeks due to the Coco word. But they're at 18-13. They've won 5 of their last 10 games, 2-game winning streak here. Their biggest problem is on the road. They're 7-9 on the road. Meanwhile, they're 11-4 at home. So once they get Drew Holiday back from his illness, things should start and turn the corner. But they're in a tough spot right here. These 3 top teams in the East, they're pretty good, like really, really good. The Brooklyn Nets, they acquired James Harden there. They're sitting at 20-12. They won their last 6 games. They're 7 of 10, right? They've won 7 of the last 10 games. Pretty good. They're a half game out of first place behind the Philadelphia 76ers, who've also been on a terrible last 10 games for them, right? They've lost 5 of their last 10. They've been horrible on the road. They're 7-9. For a team like this, who's really relying on Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, when you're at home, you've won 13 of 15 games, so it's just pretty good. But in the tough, top 3 seeds in the East, you need to be out there winning like as much as possible, right? You cannot afford to lose, because you lose, the Nets jump you. And it's going to be a back and forth battle for the rest of the year between those 3 teams, I believe, when it's all said and done. Back over into the West, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, as we mentioned before, sitting at 7-24, last place. They've lost 8 of their last 10 and currently on a 4-game losing streak. Houston Rockets, 11-17. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. I believe I saw them maybe last week, close to that 8th spot. But they lost 7 straight games in a row. Things are turning to the worst. They're without Christian Wood. DeMarcus Cousins is about to be gone from the team. They're about to mutually part ways. And, it's not looking good for first-year head coach Steven Silas of the Houston Rockets. The Oklahoma City Thunder sitting at 12-18. They've also lost 7 of their past 10 games. Sacramento Kings, 12-18 as well. They've also lost 7 of their past 10 games, but they're on a 7-game losing streak. Not great past 7 games for Luke Walton and the Sacramento Kings, led by De'Aaron Fox. You got Buddy Hield, Rashawn Holmes, all over there for the Kings. They've had a very, very tough past 10 games here. Pelicans, 13-17 record. They've won 5 of their past 10 games, 8-7 at home, but 5-10 on the road. That we mentioned before, they had their very, nice, greatest comeback in franchise history after being down by 24 points. They end up defeating the Boston Celtics yesterday in overtime by 5 points. Dallas Mavericks, 13-15 record. They've won 5 of the past 10 games, but it's a pretty rocky start for them as well. Luka Doncic even admitted, he's not having himself a great year, but he's making, some tremendous strides to look back into that MVP race once again. Memphis Grizzlies, 13-13, 500 on the season. They're sitting at 4 games, won their past 10. They've also lost their last previous games. The Golden State Warriors, very, very good so far in my eyes, right? My perspective. Sit at 16-15 on the season, but they've lost 5 of the last 10. They should have won their most previous game against the Charlotte Hornets, but Draymond Green had a terrible, terrible mistake, getting double teed up and late in the 4th quarter, and ultimately lost the game for the Golden State Warriors. Denver Nuggets not having a great season, as most expected. They're expected, top 3 team, but they're sitting at 16-14. They've lost 6 of their past 10 games. San Antonio Spurs, back to, what we expect from the Spurs and Greg Popovich. 16-11 record, 7 games won in their past 10, but they need to focus on winning at home. They're 7-8 at home. Meanwhile, they're 9-3 on the road. Those numbers need to change just a bit. Portland, man, Damian Lillard is having a tremendous year. In my opinion. He is the MVP so far this season. They're sitting at 18-11. They've won 8 of their past 10 games. They should have beaten the Washington Wizards the other night, but things happen in the NBA. So they're sitting at the 5th seed in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Phoenix Suns, great year led by Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and crew. They're sitting at 4th in the West, 19-10 on the season. They've won 8 of their past 10 games. A franchise that hasn't been to the postseason in years. I'm thinking maybe at least 10. Chris Paul walks in there, leads them to the promised land. What a great leader Chris Paul is. The LA Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and crew, 22-10 on the season. They've won 6 of their past 10 games. The LA Lakers, the LA is running the NBA right now, 22-9 on the year. They've won 7 of their past 10 games, but they are on a 2-game losing streak. AD is out currently with a calf strain. Lucky for them, people thought it might have been an Achilles tear, but good thing he'll be back within weeks. And the most surprising team so far in the NBA this year is the Utah Jazz, 24-6. Wow. They've won 9 of their past 10 games. They're 13-2 at home and 11-4 on the road. This team has done tremendous so far this season. Donovan Mitchell, you got Rudy Gobert, both who should be all-stars this year. They're just leading that team, man. They've done great things, and it's no surprise, when you actually watch them play, that, wow, okay, you can actually see that this team is the best in the NBA. But we'll see, man. For the playoffs, that's what it counts and matters in the playoffs. Who can win that big game? So, as we conclude over the NBA talk, let's jump into an interaction that happened yesterday with Cam Newton. He hosted a 7-on-7 clinic, for some high school kids. So this one clip, I believe it went viral on TikTok and then made its way over into Twitter. His name is J. Seth Owens. It went viral. It looked like Cam Newton, he was having fun with it. But, the way the kid was talking, oh my goodness. It was brutal, man. Like, for someone like him to do that, to, talk, he was saying, like, you're a free agent, like, you suck, you're a bum. And Cam Newton, he was responding to the kid, of course. He was saying, I'm rich, what are you doing? I'm rich. And, like, the kid was like, you suck. And Cam Newton responded back, like, is your mom or your parents letting you talk like this? Like, where's your mom? Where's your dad? And things like that. And it went pretty viral, and it led to a negative perception on this kid, right? And it really showed, like, the lack of disrespect many young kids, many young adults have for professional athletes in this position, right? Okay, of course, yeah, Cam Newton may be a free agent now, but he's probably going to get signed this offseason. He was one of the most dominant quarterbacks in the NFL for almost a decade, right? No one can stop this dual threat quarterback. So the lack of respect kids have nowadays is pretty crazy, to say the least. And the fact that, someone like this, I mean, come on, man. There's just no place for that, man. If you're at a camp like that, you should be looking up to Cam Newton, picking his brain, what can I do to, make it where you are, right? So this kid, J. Seth Owens, issued an apology late last night. He goes word for word here. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest apologies to Cam Newton, my entire org, and my coaches for my actions at the 7v7 tournament this past weekend. I did not intend for it to get as far as it did. First, I would like to start off by saying my parents never taught me to people to be disrespectful. As a football player, I let my competitive side get the best of me, and it was a huge miscommunication. It was in the midst of the moment, and I realize now how a lot of you took it as disrespect. I never meant to humiliate and let anyone down. I am very appreciative for 7v7 to even allow me to be a part of the community and allow me to be a part of the team I'm currently on. I realize this can dictate my future as a young man having very big dreams, goals, but I will not allow this to stop me from getting where I need to be. So again, I apologize and hope I can be forgiven. Now, young man, let me give you some wise words of wisdom here. Okay, so you can bounce back from this. An apology like that isn't going to resolve anything. It's not. Right? It's over. It's done with. It's all on the internet. You will forever be known as the kid that disrespected Cam Newton. Just so you know that. Now, in order to bounce back for this, if I'm you, you gotta start doing something that's gonna, bring your name to a positive light, right? Because college coaches, NFL guys, they're all going to know who you are now. And, if you're wanting to make it to the NFL one day, it's going to be a tough road ahead of you. So keep your head down. Keep your mouth quiet. Don't be disrespectful to anyone. Doesn't matter who it is, right? NFL player, coach, older person, guest speaker, author. It doesn't matter who. Pick their brain, learn how to get to where they are, and learn from your mistakes. And that's what you'll do. Now let's jump back into some more NFL talk here, keeping it on the same path. And we're going to talk about this Carson Wentz trade. So last week, 4 days ago actually, the Eagles traded former first-round pick Carson Wentz to the Colts. In return, they received a 2021 third-round pick and a conditional 2022 second-round pick that can turn into a first-rounder. I believe if he plays 75% of the snaps, it'll turn into a first-rounder. So a first and a third. Pretty crazy that's all they got in return, considering the Lions got a very hefty return for Matt Stafford. But that's over and done with. And the Eagles will take a $33.8 million dead cap hit, the largest dead cap hit that any player has ever taken, which is insane. So the Colts will assume the balance of Wentz's $128 million extension, including the $10 million guaranteed roster bonus due on March 19th. So with Carson Wentz, he's reunited with his former offensive coordinator in Philly, who's now the head coach, Frank Reich. And he's obviously going to fill that starting position. And the Eagles are, turning face to Jalen Hurts. Wow. It just shows you how quick a franchise can turn on a player. But, Carson Wentz had a very down season, especially, hasn't really done much since that Super Bowl run. A lot of people can say that, that Nick Foles led that Super Bowl run. But, Carson Wentz did provide some support in the beginning of that year. This dude, Carson Wentz, was a former MVP candidate. Now he ended up back in Jalen Hurts. So, obviously, he wanted out. He wants to be able to play. What's going to happen, though, with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles? Is he going to be their guy for years to come? Probably not. Eagles are going to probably look for someone to potentially be his backup and eventually, make that way onto, not having Jalen Hurts in the organization. That's just my opinion here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, it turned into a report today as well that Carson Wentz, number 11, right? And, we expect him to, try and have that same number in Indianapolis. But no, Michael Pittman Jr., star wide receiver for the Colts, who's going to be, that number one guy, since T.Y. Hilton probably will not be there next season. Michael Pittman Jr. said, no, I am not giving up that number 11. And look, rightfully so. Rightfully so. What has Carson Wentz done in the NFL for multiple years that, said, hey, I need my number? Nothing. And, if Michael Pittman Jr., that number probably means something to him, right? So there's no need for him to give up that number, right, for someone, who's not that great. It's not like, you have Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Phillip Rivers walking there demanding that number. No. Carson Wentz. So rightfully so, man. He's not going to give up that number. And yeah, who knows what number that the Carson Wentz will be for the Colts. And throughout this NFL offseason, we'll go deep dive into more teams, more organizations, and things like that. But this is just a quick little news recap that I'm covering today for Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman Jr. not giving up that number 11, and the trade that happened between the Colts and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, as we stay in the football realm, Deion Sanders, head coach for Jackson State, the college football team in Mississippi. He coached his first ever collegiate game, his first game as a head coach yesterday, and they destroyed. I'm not sure what the team they played, but it was some really small school. But there was a report, and he stated that that came out during the game. Man, his stuff, his belongings were stolen, right, in his office. So he stated out a comment yesterday. My belongings were taken out of a zip bag in my office, and more items were taken as well from my office. We have retrieved them since being reported. My staff member had witnessed a crime. So people were reporting that he, it was misplaced, but Deion said himself, it was stolen. He had one staff member who was a female, tried to stop one guy, but, it couldn't happen. But luckily enough, they were able to recover the belongings. And as I mentioned before, they won their game 53-0. Crazy good start for Deion Sanders and the Jackson State football team. And it turned out also that Troy Aikman ended up going to the football game yesterday supporting Deion Sanders. They had a video come out there. Troy Aikman said, "I wouldn't miss this thing for a world." And it just shows, that brotherhood from that, that great 90s Dallas Cowboys football team is still there, still, on this earth. And, they're supporting each other and through all of their adventures in life. And, we'll see what Deion Sanders wants to do. I expect this dude, Deion, coaching this one season at Jackson State. I don't expect him to be there for years to come. I see him as a one-and-done guy and, potentially move into a bigger football program here. But what is it going to happen this upcoming fall season? I don't know. It's a tough call because I feel like Deion, by now, if a D1, FBS team wanted to hire a guy like his caliber, it's gonna have to be soon, right? So what's gonna happen with that? I truly believe that this is gonna be Deion's one and only season at Jackson State, in the FCS here. So that's going to conclude the football news today, and let's dive in some baseball news. And this is very, very controversial. And it's crazy how something like this is still going on in this world today. Kevin Mather, right, CEO of the Seattle Mariners, spoke yesterday at the Bellevue Breakfast Rotary Club in Seattle, Washington, and had some very, very interesting details that he shared regarding around the Seattle Mariners. Now, first and foremost, I truly expect the MLB and the MLBPA to go into lockout next season. I think it's when it's going to be, because there is a lot of things that is currently wrong that's going on between the players and the owners, that it's just not ethically right, such as teams utilizing players and not calling them up to the bigs when they're ready to be able to play just because to manipulate service time, which is ridiculous. There's a stud prospect that the Seattle Mariners have. His name's Jarred Kellnick. This offseason, he was offered a 6-year deal plus options and substantial amount of money, and he turned the Mariners down. And he's betting on himself to do better, because you're seeing all these players, such as Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., right? Just to name two. They're getting $300 million plus contracts. Bryce Harper, right? So this guy's betting on himself, because he to do better, right? He's not going to get a small deal. He wants to get what he's worth. But the CEO of the Mariners, Kevin Mather, stated yesterday that this stud prospect won't be on the opening day roster for the Mariners. Instead, he's going to get his at-bats in AAA to gain the service time, and he won't be up until late April. So, and it's the same thing with another prospect that have his last name's Gilbert. You know, they're manipulating the service time, and it won't be up until late April. But when you have guys that are like this that are ready, they're capable, right? They're your best players, and you're just going to keep them back there just to manipulate service time, and you can keep on cheaping out for years to come. And then he stated the Mariners have zero intention to bring up any of their prospects this season, even if a COVID outbreak was to happen, right? With the Mariners, they still won't bring up their prospect, so that way they can just have these other guys keep on being bad year after year. And they want to try and extend as many people as they can on team-friendly deals, of course, being cheap. There's this guy, the players really try to talk out. There's another good guy that's on the team, Evan White, right, who recently just got a long-term deal, I believe, last season. But the players tried so hard to talk Evan White out of accepting this because, it's an organization like that. You're like, man, stay away from here. But Evan White ended up accepting it, right, because it guaranteed $23 million, sets him up for life. And the $55 million, the rest on the contract, would set his family up for life if the options are accepted. I mean, so you really can't deny it, for someone chasing the bag like that and, accepting it. But it's tough, man. It's tough. And we have even more service time manipulation being done by the Mariners. This dude named Riley won't be up in 21. Taylor Trammell, one of the speedy outfielders they have, he's going to be a late summer call-up. So, once again, you have good players just wasting time in the minor leagues. Julio Rodriguez, another star stud they have on the team. The dude, Kevin Mather, stated yesterday he won't be in the Mariners organization. He won't be at the big leagues in 2021, maybe 2022. But worst case, he's going to be up in 2023. For him, in 2 years, the dude was hitting bombs last year as an 18-year-old. It's just crazy. And he even stated something about the dude's English was so bad, right? I'm like, that's a big no-no. You can't say stuff like that, man. You cannot say that at all. So Kevin Mather also stated yesterday, longtime third baseman Kyle Seager, right, brother of Corey Seager, World Series MVP of the Dodgers last season, stated this is the last year of Kyle Seager's year for the Mariners. But he'll be in the Mariners Hall of Fame when it's all said and done. Bro, how can you straight up say your best player for the franchise favorite player for the past 5 years is gone after this year? Kyle Seager's wife put on Twitter yesterday, so should we put our Seattle house up for sale now? Or the fact that this dude still has a job right now, it's insane. And he said, more things regarding around, there's a Japanese pitcher that they have. He's like, we didn't want to sign him because if we do, his English is bad. So then we have to hire an interpreter, for him to speak English. That's $75,000 a year. And dude, as long as this guy is the CEO of the Mariners, I don't expect any big-time prospects coming their way anytime soon. It's crazy, man. It's crazy that this is what the MLB and Major League Baseball has come to. And like I said, I fully expect there to be a very, very substantial lockout, because if I'm the players, whole ground, during that whole the outbreak last summer, when deciding when to play, the details and things like that, the players didn't really hold their ground there, but now when you have the opportunity to do so, you need to, right? You really, really need to, because it's at the point where these owners are they're not respecting the player. They're not respecting the person that the player is. So that is going to be all today for the WPT Lifestyle Show. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. It was very, very fun. Once again, as always, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out all the links in the description box down below. My name is Wes with WPT Lifestyle Show. Until next time, y'all have a great week.